Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I'm going to be installing the Bimmertech Alpha One speakers into this G80 M3, and I want to show you how you can do the same. Alright guys, let's talk about this project a little bit before we do it. And if you don't recognize this beautiful G80 behind me, you should, because I've already installed the Bimmertech subwoofers into this car, and it makes a massive difference. Now, Bimmertech has just released their Alpha One speakers for this platform, and this is such a fantastic upgrade. I cannot wait. And as you know, I've got the Alpha Ones in my BMW M2, and I've installed them into several other cars as well. And I actually just recently drove a G82 M4 with all of the OEM stock speakers. I'll be honest with you, it wasn't great. The sub sounded really muddy, all the high notes sounded really just clouded. It really wasn't great at all. I was super psyched to get this installed now that Bimmertech has these released for this platform. So what a perfect car to come back to. It's already got the stubs. We're gonna install the rest of the Alpha One speakers, and I wanna show you how to get it done. We're gonna start on the doors, so let's go ahead and get started there. I'm only gonna walk through one front door, one back door, because the others are the same. So let's get started on the front door, and I'll show you how to do this yourself. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and get started here. So when we're looking at the doors, obviously the G80's got 4 doors. You're gonna have a mid and a tweeter in each door as we go through this. So I'm gonna show you the example down one side of the car, as I mentioned earlier, and because it's just gonna be replicating the work on both sides. Now, the nice thing here about the G80 is that your door cards are extremely easy to get off, and I'll get closer and show you here in a second, but there's a cover back behind your door pull right here. You can kind of see it here a little bit. So we're going to be pulling that cover out. We're going to use a plastic trim tool. Behind it is a T20 bolt. And back here, back in the corner, which is really hard to see right at the moment, but at about a 45-degree angle back right here, I've got my finger on it, is another T20. So pull those two, pull the cover here, pull those two T20 bolts, and then it's just going to be expanding rivets all the way around the door. But let me zoom in here a little bit. Let me get this cover off, and I'll show you what this looks like, and then we'll get this door card off. All right, so here's the cover right here. As you can see, there's little hinges here on the back, and then there's little posts here on the front. These are going to be very, very tight, because if it's a G80, these haven't been off since the factory, right? So this is going to be very, very tight, but you want to come at this front edge. You want to use a very narrow plastic trim tool. If you have to use a metal pick, and you might, be exceedingly gentle to get into this to pull it out, because the last thing you want to do is score up the plastic. But it will peel out like this, and then will come out. And then the other screw is right back here. I've got my finger on it right there. You should be able to see it right there. So go ahead and pull both of those T20s, and then I'm going to show you about how to pull the bottom of the door card. All right, so now that those two screws are out, really the only thing holding it on right now is there's a ledge here across the top, and there's a whole series of expanding plastic rivets that run around the perimeter. You want to use a plastic trim tool and come in from this lower edge enough to pry it back a little bit, and then gently pull back with your fingers. And those rivets are going to make a popping sound as they come out. So they're going to come out all along the bottom, and then it's going to be able to swing free, hinging from the top. Once the top is free, you're going to want to lift up and gently out. And I'm saying this obviously before I do it, because it's really hard to show this with the cables back behind. There's what's called the Bowden cable that comes in for your door pull right here. It has a white clip that you're going to pull up and away. And then there's a single horseshoe collar electrical connection or wiring harness that comes in where you depress the tab, unlock the collar, and the cable comes out. Then your entire door card is off. Now, I'll set my camera up so you can see me taking it off, but that's the process we're going to go through, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so the door card's loose. You can see it'll swing free. So you want to pick up and away, but you can't pull it out all that far, because as you can see, we've still got our cables attached here. I know my arm's going to be in the way, but you lift up and out for the Bowden cable, and then you've got your wiring harness right here that there's 2 little tabs on either side that you're going to depress and rock this out. So on this side, it's a flat plug that comes in with 2 little locking tabs on both sides that you're going to pull. On the driver's side door, it's a bigger wiring harness with a horseshoe collar over the top. So there is a difference between the driver's side and the passenger side, but that's the only difference in how the wiring actually connects. Okay, so go ahead and take this and set your door card safely aside. All right, guys, now that the door card is off, you can see that the mid here on the door is exposed. There are 3 T20s that fold all into place, and then 2 wires that come in and plug into the speaker. So go ahead and pull those out. You can tell there's a little bit of a locking plate on one side. It's on the side where there's the little raised edge. You can depress on that, and it makes a tiny little bit of difference to get these out, but these can be notoriously tight, and so be really careful. I usually take these out before I unscrew the speaker because it gives me a better grip on them. If you have to, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers to grab the plug, but I really do that as last resort because you pry on them too much and you can break one of these plugs, and then you're really in trouble if you break a plug, right? So go ahead and get both those off, and then you can take the mid out. We're going to replace it with the new one, and then we're going to walk through taking the tweeter off, which is up in this upper trim around the door frame. All right, also, as you can tell, the mid is in. Whenever you put this in, all 3 T20s, this is metal into plastic, so always be very careful. The screws only have to go in snug. Don't crank overly hard on it. So this is in place also. Which mid to grab, you can always tell. Now, of course, with this G80 kit, there's 4 speakers in the door, and there's 4 mids that look one way and 3 that look the other. But just in case, you have this one that actually has the foam ring around it. So all the ones with the foam rings are what's going into your doors. Now, the other thing you're going to be plugging in is this inline filter. And when you unwind it, you can see it says amp in on one side and mid out on the other. And it's a male and female cable, so there's really no mistaking which end you're going to plug in. But you have to know which one of these to plug it into. Well, because one is from your amp and one is actually from the tweeter. So if you look up here, up above, this is the line that's coming down from the tweeter that we're going to pull here in a second. And if you look, it's blue and white. If you look down here, you've got one that's blue and white and one that's essentially blue and red. So this is blue and white from the tweeter. So our filter is going to go onto this one. Okay, so as you can see, that's the way it's going to go. Now, as far as the 2 plugs here, it doesn't matter where these plug in. They just go straight into either plug and you're good to go. All right, so go ahead and get that plugged in, and I'm going to show you how to take the window trim off next. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and look at the tweeter. As you can tell, it's plugged in right here, so you can unplug this. But then the tweeter itself is in this entire plastic piece surround that goes all the way around your door. And there really is a couple of ways at this. You can either take the entire thing off, or you can just pull off this end and try to get your hand back behind. Now, when you do your other door, that might be what you do because you're more familiar with it, but I'm going to pull the entire trim because I want you to see that process. So there's a little post on this side, so you pull it out to get it loose, and then the whole thing will start to get loose. As you can see, it fits in this rubber grommet all the way around. It also has a big corner. This corner right here tucks back really, really far, so when you work this out, you're going to have to work it out and around that corner right there. And then also to come to this end and work it loose. And as you can see, it's coming loose from the rest of the piece as it goes around this surround. So there's that side. You can see it working off the door, okay? All the way off like that. And this last corner right here, like right there. Now I'm gonna be careful because I haven't unplugged it yet, but as you can tell, it's loose. So we're gonna take this, set it aside in a safe place, and we're gonna pull that tweeter out. All right, y'all, now that the trim is off, you can see your tweeter. There's this foam piece that sits back here behind. Obviously, I've already taken it off and pulled the wire out of it. There's a little narrow tray that it goes through. But there's little fingers that hold this into place all the way around. So you want to use like a pick tool to gently move back those fingers. Don't break them off, and then you can pry the tweeter out. Just be really gentle when you do it, because if you break the fingers, that would be a real drag, and then that would make the new one not go in straight. Once you have this out, take the new one, just lock it back into the same position, tip in one edge and push it down, and it'll snap into place. Put the foam back in, route the cable through the foam, just like it was, and then we're gonna look to get this reinstalled back up on the car. All right, so once you have the tweeter in, it's just gonna be a matter of fitting all of this plastic trim back into place. I find it's easier if you lead with this corner, because this is such a big, aggressive corner right here, that you fit that aggressive corner into place. You notice then it fits up and around. So it's really not all that hard to get back into place. You just have to fit these inside fingers, not only all the way up to the foam, but around the inside of the frame. Also keep in mind that there's that little plastic post here. There's one right here. There's one on both sides that fit in to where this little blue grommet is right here on both sides. So just fit this back into place, walk it all the way around, make sure that it's in and flush and set in securely, and both those posts are in place. And then we're gonna plug it in, and we're going to be working on the door, putting the door card back on. All right, guys, so let's check one thing before we rehang the door card. And these are the expanding rivets on the doors. Now, if you've ever taken the door cards off the BMW, you've seen a lot of these rivets before. Well, this is a new style for the G80, and they're actually expanding. So if you can see the gap right there between the rubber collar and that backing, if I push down, the end of this will pull back and it will expand out into the door when it's in the door. And it will expand outwards to help hold on, which is a cool new design. But I've also noticed that a couple of these didn't retract, aren't in this narrow position. And if you try to put it in right now, they won't go back in the hole. They're too big to go in through the hole. So what you're going to want to do is take like a plastic trim tool or something and slide in between the little gap right there and press this collar back upwards, and you'll see the little wing arms close back down. Okay, this one is obviously in a closed position, but if you have any that are expanded, make sure to fix them and put them back into the closed position before you put it back on the door, or they're just not going to fit, and you're going to wonder why the rivet doesn't seem to want to go into the door. That's the reason why. Okay, so let's get the door card rehung with the rivets in the right position. All right, so one other thing I wanted to point out is you can see the door is hung here on that upper ledge, and I usually will kind of ride it high and then press it in and then slide it down, and you can definitely tell when that ridge connects on that top ledge. But if you look right here, you can see there's a couple of little hooks in here, right there. So we want to make sure that these hooks on this are hooked into this plastic trim piece and they go back behind. So I usually will take a plastic trim tool, kind of gently pry out, get it out a little bit, and then get these hooks in. Once all of this is set across the top and you're sure that it's straight, then you can walk around and make sure that all of your rivets are in the right place. I usually I'll look down all the edges, make sure it lines up, because you don't want to break those plastic rivets. Okay, so go ahead and walk through all of this, and then this door will basically be done. All right, so the door card's back on, as you can tell. So you want to check functionality before you really kind of tighten it all down and finish it up. Obviously, you want to make sure your Bowden cable's on correctly with your door pull, that it feels right. You can depress the locking pin and pull it to make sure that it works, and it does. Okay, so you've plugged the wiring harness back in, you've plugged the Bowden cable back in, all of this is tightened down. And when you put the screws back in, I find the top one will actually tighten down, cinch down completely. Where the middle one seems to just want to go snug. So be really careful. Again, metal into plastic. In this case, it's metal into metal, but encased in plastic. So these don't have to be really overly tight. So go ahead and put all those in, and let's move to the back door. All right, so when you take the back door card off, it's going to be the exact same process. You're going to pull the handle, you're going to pull out the little cover and the T20 right here and the T20 back in the corner here. And then you're going to work all of those plastic rivets off by prying with a plastic trim tool, pry the corner, then gently pop them all the way around, then lift it up and away. Now in this case, you're going to have an additional cable because the tweeter is actually right here. So you've got the mid that's in the door frame itself, and then the tweeter that's on the door card. So you're going to unplug the cable that goes to your window switch and all the rest, and your lighting. You're going to unplug, pull off the Bowden cable, but then also unplug your tweeter. Go ahead and take the door card, set it safely aside, and we're going to swap all of this out. All right, so now the entire door card is loose. You can just pick it up, lift it away, and lift it up off that up edge. And as you can see, it's really tight. So you're gonna have to remember that when you put this back on, you're gonna have to push in really hard to get that edge down over that lip like you did on the front door. So the Bowden cable on this is really, really tight, so you wanna do that first. So you pry up and away, that'll give you a little bit more room. There's a plug, a white plug here. It's got a little depression tab on top. You just depress that and it'll come out. And then you've got your tweeter right here as well, which comes all the way down and is plugged into the mid in the door. So a little bit hard to see right now, I know. But then you can just take it and then just work it out. There you go. So now door card's off, you can set it safely aside. We're gonna get back to it in a second to replace the tweeter. But go ahead and replace the mid here in this door. I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. All right, so here's the inside of the rear door card. The only difference here between the front and rear, so the tweeter's actually in the door, but the process is going to be exactly the same. There are little fingers here holding the tweeter down, so you just gently pry it out with a pick tool. And then it's wrapped underneath some cables down through a little clip right here, and then down through another clip down below. So go ahead and just pull all that out, replace it with the new one, and then we're going to get it reinstalled onto the door. I'll point it out here in a second, but make sure to install the filter as well. Don't forget that in the line up from the sub. Install the new filter, plug it into the new mid, and then your new tweeter will plug right into the mid. So go ahead and get this replaced, and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay guys, so the tweeter's in. It's pretty much done. I can start to look to rehang this. Now obviously I don't have anything plugged back in yet. I don't have the tweeter plugged back in, but I do have my filter plugged into the mid. I'll plug the tweeter into the new mid as well, the Bowden cable, your wiring harness, and all the rest. Don't forget your pin needs to come up through the door card. Double check all of your little rivets all around, all the way around, to make sure that they're in that retracted position and not the expanded position. But it really is that simple. Now, the other thing I found hanging the door card here for the rears, that if you take it and kind of line it up, but have it really, really high, and then press in firmly like that, which is going to make me regret not having the wiring in, but that will help you rehang this more easily. As you can see, it kind of up high, press in, and then down, and it'll hang over that edge. Okay, now in this case, I'm going to take mine back off to plug everything back in. Don't forget your door pin. Go ahead and get it all plugged back in, get your door card rehung, put in those 2 screws in the cover, and your back door is done. All right, guys, so as you can see, the rear door card is now on. Not a problem. Both screws are in. The top cover is in. The top one, again, is metal into plastic, so it will cinch down pretty well, but don't crank on it too far. You wouldn't want to break that metal housing in the plastic. The lower one, just like the front door, feels like metal into plastic, so it will cinch down snug, but it's never going to like tighten down and stop like you would expect metal into metal. So just make sure that it's snug. Make sure all your connections are good all the way around. And then we're going to go to the back deck back here. I'm going to do that next. We're going to do your one side of the back deck, which is really simple. I'm actually going to show you through the back glass, even though you can't see it right at the moment. It's the easiest angle to show you the view, but we're just going to lift the cover and swap the speakers out, and then we're going to do the same thing for the center channel. Then all you have to do is duplicate down the other side. But let's get started on the back, and I'll show you that. Yeah, so I know we've got a fair amount of reflection right now, but it really is the best angle to show you this through the glass. So this back cover right here, all you have to do is use a plastic trim tool under one edge. It's got a bunch of little hooks. It'll come up and it'll lift away. So as you can see, let me rearrange the light here a little bit. Now, these are where the other style speakers, so the speakers without the foam around the outside. You also have the shaped tweeters as well. So this is really simple, so I'm going to speed through this part. You pull the 3 T20s, you pull the 2 T20s on the tweeter, the whole assembly comes out. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to install the filter and into the line from the amp, plug it all in together, just like you've done in the doors and you're familiar with so far. Now, the one thing about the shaped tweeters, because of the shape of the housing on it, it only goes in one way, but it'll be obvious. If you have it the wrong way, it's not going to line up with the holes, and it's super simple. Okay, so let me get these out. Now, the one other point I want to use is this back bolt right here on the tweeter. You've got about this much space between the glass. So a normal size wrench or a wrench with an extension is not going to fit between that screw and a tool, right? So what I actually usually will do is I will take a T20 bit and I will put a 5mm wrench on a T20 bit that I can slide back in here all the way in and fit it on, and then turn the wrench and it'll turn the bit and it'll come right out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these out and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you can tell, the speakers are out. We're gonna just kind of bang through the same process we've done, because if you've done 2 doors already, you're familiar with it. Obviously, there's the line from the amp right here, so your filter is gonna go there. So plug your filter in, your filter is gonna plug into your mid. Put your tweeter here and route the cable underneath, and then plug it into the mid, secure the whole thing down, put it back into place. The cover itself just goes back in. It's just got fingers on it, so you take it and press it down into place and it'll be done. And then the center channel is going to be almost identical, so that process is going to be really, really easy. But I'll show you what this looks like when it's done. All right, y'all, as you can see, the new speakers are in. They're all set. I've got the screws in. I just don't have them sunk down yet. I'll do that in a sec and put the cover on. Like I said, the cover just slides into place and presses down with the little fingers into all the little holes. Really straightforward, really easy. And once you're done with this, go ahead and move forward to the center channel. You're going to do the same thing and prying the cover off. But go ahead and sink all these down. And again, keep in mind, these are metal screws into plastic, so just put them down snug. Don't crank on them really, really hard. Make sure that your filter's on. All of these are down secure, and then we'll move up to the center channel. All right, y'all, so here we are looking at the center channel. It's gonna be a similar process. You use a plastic trim tool to get underneath the corner, then slowly lift. The one thing I wanna caution you on is this is very flexible, so if you really pry it up on it, I think you could possibly flex it and break it. That would be a huge bummer. Now, here in the center channel, once the cover's off, you're gonna see we're gonna have to take a couple of additional steps. You've got the screws to take the mid out, which is really straightforward, but then you've got the tweeter right here, which is, in this case, already loose. Which I find kind of ironic. Now, potentially, once the mid comes out, if you can reach underneath and snap the tweeter up into place, I would say go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and get the mid off first, and then we're gonna get the new tweeter in and put the new mid back in as well. Okay, so we're going to handle the tweeter here up front a little bit differently, even differently than I said a second ago. I thought this plate actually hinged off if you pulled these two bolts. It doesn't. So in this case, what I found is I just pushed down on the tweeter and it pushed down out of the clips. So, and the material underneath is soft. Push it down and out, and you can push it back into the space of where the mid was. Then also the filter is here as well, and it's up here underneath in some clips. So if you just press and pull down on the wire, it'll pull the filter out of the clips, and then you can feed the tweeter out. So putting the new one in is just going to be the reverse process. Just feed it back up underneath and press it up into this place, up into the space here, and up into the clips. Okay, I've already test fit it once. It fits just fine, so go ahead and fit it through. The rest of your cabling can fit back here underneath. Then you're going to take, again, you're going to take the feed here and plug it into the filter, plug it into the mid, plug the tweeter into the mid, bolt it all back down, and you're good to go. All right, y'all, so as you can tell, it's all installed, looks great. The tweeter went right into place. Just reach underneath, reach up, press it up into place, run the cables appropriately, put in the filter, and then get it all bolted back down. And then just slide the cover back into place and press those little fingers on the cover back down into place gently, because again, the cover's kind of flexible. So if you haven't done the other two doors yet, go ahead and do those, and then the other back corner of the rear deck as well. If you have done that already, then you're done. Well done, good job. All right, y'all, all done, and you can tell this is not a hard project. It just takes a few simple tools, and everything you need will be listed in the video description below, along with the link for the speakers themselves. I couldn't wait to get this install done. This G80 already had the subs, and they really needed the rest of the Alpha One system, let me tell you, especially after borrowing that M4. The speakers really are not great at all, especially after being spoiled by the Bimmertech speakers. Man, it makes a huge difference. Please click like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I have a ton of content coming this year that I cannot wait to bring to you. Super excited about it, and I'll see you on my next project.